You look lonely. I can fix that.
Whoa, Cyberpunk had a pretty average release, eh? I, like many others, tried to play this promise of a new and immersive world at launch, but the gaming gods had other plans for me.
Oh, what the fuck is going on, mate?
After a good 5 minutes of trying to get this game to work, I gave up and uninstalled it and got a refund.
Your refund has been submitted. Oh no. No! I've got to get it on PlayStation. Ugh.
Fast forward many years ahead, and I've been told that the issues that plagued this game to an almost irredeemable status have since been resolved, and the game is finally what was promised. So today, after putting in about 30 hours into this game so far, we're going to go ahead and dive into my impressions of the game and see what this futuristic dystopian hellscape has to offer. Disastrous release aside, my time so far in Cyberpunk 2077 has been nothing short of amazing. By playing years after its release, I am completely omitted from the criticisms and issues that plagued the game through its many patches and updates. I am playing a truly finished product in how the game was originally envisioned, devoid of the noise and the constant chatter that usually surrounds newer releases. I was left to my own devices and peace to enjoy this game, and I simply could not put it down. Let's first talk about the world that you'll be exploring. Cyberpunk offers many different landscapes and locales for you to enjoy. There are slums, bustling cities full of vendors and beguiling neon lights, all the way over to desolate wastelands, industrial plant areas, and remnants of a simpler time through abandoned theme park areas, serving as a reminder of the constant level of decay that this world constantly sees, as well as a dynamic weather system and a day and night cycle, all of which contribute to a world with many stories to tell. Among those stories is the one that you'll be playing through. You control a character by the name of V, and V, through a series of unfortunate events, is imbued with an engram that contains the digital consciousness of domestic terrorist from the early 2000s, Johnny Silverhand. Now you'll eventually come to the understanding that this engram is parasitic in nature and it's slowly eating away at you, and the new host, Johnny, will eventually take ownership of your body. Throughout your play, you are constantly reminded of the progressive deterioration of your condition. V constantly blacks out and starts to question whether his decisions are actually his, or are they already under the influence of this engram? How much of yourself is still there and how much of Johnny has already taken over? This questioning of your perceived reality, and if it even is your reality to begin with, led to so many interesting moments. It also leads the player down the path where they can decide to lean into those callings and choose options that would reflect the more questionable moralities of Johnny Silverhand, or to fight those urges and take a different path. You can decide how hostile or approachable you want to be. You can decide if you want to go unnoticed and stealth-like, or enter a gunfight at any chance you get. However, do be aware that your decisions will have consequences that will ultimately lead you to one of the game's 7 endings. I won't touch too much on the story elements as I'm still unfolding these myself. However, I can say that the game's story is absolutely enthralling and had me engaged throughout my entire play so far. Characters have a very authentic and human feel to them, despite being made up of mostly cybernetic augmentations. There really is something to be said here about how this game has captured the human spirit. There's a real drive to survive, to do what it takes to make it another day, even if sometimes that comes at the cost of someone else. You might not always agree with the actions of certain characters, but at the very least, you can understand their point of view and their motivations. Keep this in mind that this is consistently applied through the many different branching decisions that lead you down many different paths in this game, and the game maintains this level of immersion regardless of your actions or choices. This can only be done through meticulous planning and a high standard of writing that really does not go unnoticed here. I never felt regret from a choice I made or felt like an outcome was a letdown. It was always an interesting stone being laid to eventually form a path of events that I could look back on during my time in Night City. So moving into that word immersion, big call alert, this is going to piss a few people off. Sorry. I've played some very big games this year that are considered industry leaders in the immersion department. Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3 are two that come to mind very quickly, as you can get lost in their expansive and highly detailed worlds. But hear me out when I say this, as amazing as those games are, Cyberpunk just absolutely clears them in the immersion department. I have never, ever played a game that has made me feel so much a part of its world as Cyberpunk did. NPCs will actually feel like they're living their own lives, going about their own days. Outcomes of dialogue feel natural and expected, which makes them appear sensible and logical to the player. I was never thinking of choosing a dialogue option because of a certain advantageous outcome. I chose dialogue options because it's the closest thing to what I would personally say in that situation. This subtle difference crossed that barrier for me between me playing a game to me living the experiences of this game. It was also the first game since San Andreas where I found myself just getting into a car and driving around. No missions, no side missions, no nothing. Just getting in, driving, exploring the unknown, and awaiting what the game would bestow upon me. Now, despite being set in a tech-driven dystopian future, this game's world actually closely parallels our real life. It has corrupt politicians or people in power, much like ours, an obsession with self-image, altering ourselves under the guise of improvements, a society where the rich get richer and the poor stay poor. Despite visually being very different, Cyberpunk 2077 perfectly captures the discrepancies between classes and the complicated kaleidoscope that is the human nature. It's chaotic, but we're all trying to simply fit in somewhere. And I really think that this is why I connected so much to this game. It's different, but it's like holding a warped mirror to our own reality. So much of what is in this game feels like an exaggeration or a hyperbolic interpretation to our current way of living. This game also handles its NPCs so well. It acts quick in making you feel a genuine connection to them as well, solidifying that your contact with them means more than just simply getting a job done. For an example, take the first 2 to 3 hours of the game. I've gone from being introduced to Jackie, growing to really like him, and then the game just rips my heart out by killing him and giving me a devastating responsibility of choosing his final resting place. It's kind of fucked up. Now, after feeling this sadness, the game can switch it up on you and make you feel like a bumbling idiot with no riz approaching a 10 out of 10 baddie like it's a scene from Transformers.
You do.
And like any other good open world game, you can also romance NPCs too. That is, if you can. What? I totally can. I didn't get rejected.
Got a few ideas. Think you know what kind?
No.
Wow, this game really is like a real life simulation. This game's shit. Now, these NPCs will guide you along your story to what I can only assume will solidify the main running theme throughout this entire game of going out in a blaze of glory. See, Night City and those that occupy it aren't looking out for your best interests most of the time. Trust is hard to come by and friends are even harder. But there is one constant: finding your place in this world. Do you let this city chew you up as it has done so to many before you? Or are you destined to become another casualty to a disenfranchised hellscape? Or do you make a name for yourself, become a living legend and go out in a blaze of glory? Your outcome is really in your hands, but like all good things,
Everything has its end.
so how do you go about deciding your fate in the game? Well, to help you be a little more persuasive, the game gives you hundreds of combinations to make the most formidable V that Night City has seen. There are so many things to level up here in this game, like certain skills that pertain to actions that you can do in the real world, and they all come with their own individual skill tree. You can then manually install cyberware to your character that all have different effects again, and on top of that, there are options to upgrade them further down the line, and some of these augmentations unlock different combat abilities, like giving you one of my favorite things in the game, Mantis Blades. You'll also be able to find hundreds of guns which all feel absolutely fantastic in hand, and yes, these too can have mods applied for different effects and builds. The more you level up your skills, the more proficient you become in that particular theme. You can communicate better, so you get more dialogue options when talking. You can hack higher level doors or things, break into more exotic cars. Overall combat starts to shape around your personal playstyle based on the skills that you have invested into. There are so many options available that players will rarely fall into the same build as one another. And also, one really nice feature is that if you see a cyberware upgrade that you can't get yet, the game has an option to view where it is on the actual perk tree to unlock it. That way, you get a clear understanding as to how to unlock that specific perk and the option that you want. There are also some non-gameplay changing choices that you can make too that tie into the character's appearance. You can change the look of your character to be whatever you kind of want. There are clothing options, and there's even genital size. Whoa! Now that's a fat cock. All of this ties into making your version of V feel truly custom to you. And on top of that, there's also crafting, cyberware upgrades, side missions spread across your map, gang wars, and there's a plethora of available vehicles, and just exploring every nook and cranny that this game has to offer. The level of freedom to customize your character and to do what you want, when you want, lends this game to realizing its true open world potential. Now, the main story aside, the side missions have actually been quite enjoyable too. They're very far away from take X item to X person or the usual busy work you get in a lot of other side missions. They're surprisingly filled with a lot of heart, emotion, sadness, desperation, and references to other games, which were all a delight. I won't spoil the ones that I've done so far, but one of my favorite ones was a mission where I had to locate AI controlled cars that had been corrupted, and one had a very familiar voice which was so funny to hear, but was surprisingly fitting for a world of Cyberpunk.
Really appreciate it if you didn't make this difficult.
I have a surprise waiting for you after this next test. Telling you would spoil the surprise, so I'll just give you a hint. I'm going to kill you.
Now, doing all the missions, both side and main, is a must in this game. Some lead you down absolute rabbit holes, showing you a side to Night City and also to certain characters that would otherwise go completely missed. Not often that side missions not only offer this much variety, but can also be crucial in panning out the setting and characters within the game. One of my favorite missions so far is where you get to relive moments from Johnny's life, and it gives him some very grounded and emotional development. So you no longer see him as just this domestic terrorist who wants to destroy things. It gave his character a real motivation and heart. You understand his perspective, and although you might not necessarily agree with his actions, you can understand and appreciate the motive behind it. When a game, or hell, any medium gets you to understand and even side with someone who is clearly meant to be just fucked up, they've done a really good job in the writing department. I cannot give this team at CD enough credit for this, on top of Keanu's amazing performance that just brings this fully realized world home. It's a world that has so much to offer, so much to explore, and I am constantly in awe at how much I can do in this game. However, as good as this game is, it isn't perfect. So let's go through some of the issues that I've had so far. These analyzing missions are just the bane of my existence. You have to scan certain items or glowing things to gather more information, and you have to do this on a regular camera, a heat sensor, and an audio sensor. So as if scanning through one timeline wasn't annoying enough, you now have to do it on 3 different settings, and you need to do this to gather all the bits of the information. When the game offers this much to do and then forces you into these slow and boring sequences, it just does the game a disservice. I wanted to get out ASAP, but instead the game is like, oh, look for the shiny object, where is it?
There's one more recording. Wanna see it?
No, I don't want to do it again. Next are the vehicles, and I know I'm not alone in this because there are 1.3 million downloads for a mod that aims to make the handling of the cars and bikes less frustrating. And that's the exact word I will describe some of these cars, just frustrating. This game has so many vehicles for you to drive, and we really are spoiled for choice. However, this choice becomes quickly sour when you get into some of these cars. Some of the cars feel super heavy and the handling takes a bit to get used to. They're almost tank-like in nature, and even at low speeds, they take a corner extremely wide, which begs a question: how am I meant to feasibly drive this in an everyday game setting and still enjoy myself without crawling down to a snail pace to turn a simple fucking corner? Other cars on a slight turn instantly start drifting and make you lose control, almost like they are completely absent of any traction on the road. Now what this means is that you'll eventually find a niche of vehicles that suit your preferable driving style, and you'll just stick to those vehicles only. You'll then get a better overall driving experience, yes, but it also means you are now ignoring a majority of vehicles placed in this game for you to enjoy, which is just a shame. It's clear that so much work has gone into the design and function of these vehicles. However, some of their handling just made them an absolute chore to drive. Now, in terms of bugs, while they weren't frequent, they were still prevalent in my play. I had people stuck inside cars, random cars would appear, and I had the occasional crash from time to time. And although this wasn't a bug, I still found it pretty funny. Lady, he's already got his food, leave him alone. Why are you watching him eat? Now, despite those few annoyances, Cyberpunk 2077 is a true testament to the continuous work and dedication of CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk is very clearly a labor of love and a product born from the love of the craft and an attempt to take you into one of the most immersive, fully realized worlds you'll ever visit in your gaming journey. A game that has completely redeemed itself and then some. V, with about 2 weeks left to live, left in a world with endless possibilities, endless modifications, and all this available technology at your disposal. However, seemingly left with absolutely nothing to help you or stop Johnny from taking over your body was such a compelling narrative angle. No options, no coming back. We are now playing as a character that simultaneously is losing everything and is turning into someone with nothing else left to lose. The pacing in this game was also incredible, and at 30 hours in, I really have felt like I've put in maybe 10. Now I'm about 2 missions away from beating the base game and a couple of missions into the Phantom Liberty DLC. I still have many more side missions, jobs, bounties, and odd things to do in this game before I call it quits on Night City. And I'm also left with so many unanswered questions. Is there a way to actually prevent myself from losing my body and mind to Johnny's engram? Can I truly make a name for myself and escape the hold of this equally beautiful and toxic city? Or is my only real option to go out in a blaze of glory? How does my story end in this vast, decrepit world? Who knows? Oh. Not good.